Are you ready to radiate gratitude on this November day, 2025? I know I am. Oh, and you know what? Life has not been super smooth and easy here in the U.S. So fostering a little bit of a gratitude attitude, it's got some challenges. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're willing to take the journey. And see my fun little altar cloth here with the bees. It says, the honeybee life, sweet honey, sweet garden. So yeah, let's do that. Oh, let's get myself centered up. I'm all over the place here. Okay, so this is actually a VR, and I am going to put the information like at the end. There will be like a little box up here or something, and you can click that to go to the original video, or you can go below. But super good tag. And I'm going to, these are my notes that I took. I may deviate from her list a little bit, but we'll stick with it mostly. So the first one is a hard one. Well, there's some pretty challenging prompts, to tell you the truth. And the first one is a deck that stood by my side through my darkest moments, like a sister. And it's really interesting because this deck has come up a few times in recent VRs, but I haven't used it recently. And that's this one, the Bad Bitches Tarot. So I kind of have two answers to this one about stood by my side through my darkest moments. So this was for a very specific moment, which is in the past. So sometimes when I bring it back, it makes me think of those times, which were not particularly happy. I did get through it. So a more consistent one that I can go to in my darkest moments and know that I'm going to get some good advice is this one. I've talked about both a lot. But this one I feel like I haven't seen it in any recent videos, but I have seen somebody, trying to remember who it is now. I'll put it below. There is somebody who just did a deep dive on the Spirit Keepers Tarot. So, and I've done several videos. I'll put some links for those things. So here's the Bad Bitches. The Bad Bitches, they had my back, man. They had my back. Like a sister. I never had a sister, so I can only guess what I imagined having a sister might be like. Yep. Which reminds me, it's Jane Austen's 250th anniversary. So speaking of sisters, good time to go revisit your Jane Austen stuff. So that's the Bad Bitches. And on the unlikely event that you have not seen any Spirit Keepers Tarot, we'll just look at a couple of cards so you can see. It's very multicultural. Benabel Wen did this, and this is really her baby. She did the artwork. All right, let's see if we can get some right side up examples. She did some artwork. This is the Revelation edition, which I like because I like the color. And I'm sorry to say that it is out of print, and she says she's done. She's not gonna do anymore. But you never know. So anyway, this is the Spirit Keepers Tarot. Probably my most sacred tarot. I would not go to this deck to ask silly questions. No, I would not. So yeah, feel very grateful for that one. All right, the next one is the deck that has told me the hardest truths. And again, I had two decks. I don't know what my problem is here. Like, narrow it down, make a decision. So that was apparently not the mood I was in when I was going through my decks. So these are the two decks that I would put in that category of a deck that has told me the hardest truth. Now, Into the Lonely Woods, my understanding is that Lucy Cavendish and Dan May created this deck, conceived of it, and did most of the work for it during the shutdown, during the pandemic, when so many of us were. We were in the lonely woods, all right. And I found it very supportive and very gentle and loving, but it does, it's hard. Death moves among us. Hope is like a hummingbird. You know, it's hard to walk the lonesome road, but it is also supportive. So I feel grateful for that. You know, it's, especially when you're having little hard things, big hard things, you do want to feel supported. You don't want to feel like you're really, really alone. And this one was a little bit of a hug deck. Still is. I still use this one. But it doesn't shy away from hard stuff. There's that one. And then this other one that I think a lot of people use for this type of work is the Reclaim Oracle. Now, some people seem to find this a little bit like softer. I think somebody may have called it a hug deck for them or something. Definitely not for me. This one, it's like, this will get into my deepest, darkest fears. You kidding? Not a hug deck for me. But yeah, this is definitely a hard truth deck for me. And the art is just, I can feel this. It's evocative. Gotta watch it with the naked stuff. Yeah. Hard truths, absolutely hard truths. So that is the Reclaim Oracle. So hopefully I will not get lazy. I'll list everything in the description below. The deck that gave me language for my feelings. I did not pick a deck for that. I was just, yep, I had no answer for that one. Skipped it. The deck that opened my eyes to what I could be. And back to having two decks. So I am going to say that studying with Colette Baron-Reid, that's the thing that really kind of opened my eyes to what I could be. She's, if you've ever done a workshop or a class or one of her retreat things, you'll see that she's very, what do I want to say? It's not just that she's supportive. She says things that help you to really believe, yes, I am getting messages. I can read these cards. I can help myself. I can help other people. I can be a force for good. And that's really just the very essence for me of a deck that opened my eyes to what I could be. And so whenever I use these decks, I almost feel like I have something, you know, sitting behind me, giving me a little pat on the shoulder saying, yeah, you got this. You have the insights. You have the intuition. The art works for me. The keywords work for me. And if I get stuck, I just go to the guidebooks. And yeah, well, I shouldn't say all, not all of Colette Baron-Reid's decks, but almost all of them help me to feel like, yeah, I can do this. The deck that dared me to live. We're going to go to the witch. So again, Angie Sullins is definitely a force for encouraging women, daring us to live our authentic lives. And this deck in particular really does the job. Why do I have this marked? Is that meaningful to this? Well, sure, I'll just read that. A witch knows she is deeply worthy, and her heart, soul, mind, and precious life energy are to be shared only with those who can respect the treasure. Guard your worth. So that must have been something I was appreciating in a previous reading. So yeah, so let's just look at some of these images from WITCH, Woman in Total Control of Herself. Oops, wrong way. Thought I had it figured out. There we go. Okay, get that centered up. So, daring me to live, not just to live, but to live my authentic self. It's just beautiful. I love how we have women in all different places and stages, times. I look at this, it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. Dare you to live as the hive queen. Dare you to live as the devouring mother or the lion queen. Yep, she's daring you. All right, a deck that celebrated my biggest victories, and that is one that I actually had on our little opening screen, and that is the Love Who You Are deck. Also an Angie Sullins deck. Looks, I mean, she's really good production value. Love the backs, love the art, love everything. So, yeah, so I feel like almost everything in here is celebratory, encouraging, celebratory. Yeah, wear your party hat. Bless your lovely self. Go give yourself a hug right now while you're listening to this video. Just do it. Celebrate yourself. Become a wonder hunter. Just, yeah, love this deck. Love it. I love the Love Who You Are deck. The deck that taught me the importance of stillness. So this is a more almost like a style of deck as much as it is a particular deck, and that would be something that has a lot of detail. So I think the first deck I ever had that was like that was Shadowscapes. And this one, so I wanted to show you Oak, Ash, and Thorn, but that is at my daughter's house. So we'll look at the sister deck here, which I forget what it's called. Ash, Ember, anyway, the dragon version. The other one is more woodsy, Oak, Ash, and Thorn. This is a dragon deck. But it's got the point of what helps me to be still. When you give me a deck that has a lot of detail in it, then I'm willing to just sit and look at it. Because I've got the main figures, whatever they might be, and then there's all this background that you can look at. So, yeah, let's find one that we can really kind of think about. Okay, look at the Magician or the Three of Pentacles, either one of them. Let me get something to point with. This little guy. So if we've got the Magician, and you know, in traditional RWS decks, you're always looking for, well, are there the symbols? And we've got this acorn here, we have a little sword, we have the pentacle, we've got the wand, and then look, we have a night sky, we've got all these stars. If you wanted to, you could really be quiet with the constellation. Maybe you could see something with that. Maybe you could look down here and look at the flowers and the greenery. There's just so much to look at. And the same thing is true over here with this Three of Pentacles. We could say, oh, you know, just do a quick look and go, okay, the mommy and daddy are feeding the baby eggs. But it's like, well, wait a second. Well, how do you feed an egg? What's that all about? And then you're like, no, they're building the nest. They're bringing the sticks. But this egg is, what's going on here? Is it on fire? And look, there's pentacles down in here. And what kind of leaves are those? And does that mean anything? And oh, wait, these leaves are the same leaves as the wings on the dragon. And so depending on the question that you've asked, there's just so much you can look at. And that causes me to be still. So that's the style of deck that teaches me the importance of stillness. All right. The deck that gave me more questions than answers. That is the Shining Tribe. So this is Rachel Pollack's deck, and I have the fairly recent reprint. It comes in this big old box. Let's see if I can do this without losing everything. Yeah, so it comes in this kind of big with all this pink, and there's the deck. So I, like many people, am not able to just look at these images and immediately say, oh, I get that. I do have to sort of stop and think about it. And frequently I need to consult the book, which happily is a great book. It's a really good book. And she's quite articulate about speaking about her creation here. But when I look at something like this Four of Stones, I'm like, okay, so I know what the Four Stones would be, but what's this? What's that? Is that what now? And sometimes I look at it and I know what I'm looking at, but I'm not completely sure why that's what I'm looking at. It's like, wait, is this Turtle Island? Why is it upside down? And why the frog? And what's the frog eating? It's like I find myself asking a lot of questions, you know, just about the imagery. And I know the imagery doesn't land well with other people, and I think it's because it does force you to ask a lot of questions. It's not an easy read. Sometimes you can just get a good intuitive hit off of anything at all, looking at the rocks on the ground, looking at the clouds in the sky, whatever. But this particular kind of art style, I think, causes a lot of people to ask questions and just say, hang on now, what am I looking at? I think it is such an important deck, and I wish more people could get over their discomfort to just use it and work with it, because I just think it rewards that effort. So that's it. That is the deck that gives me more questions than answers. Shining Tribe Tarot by Rachel Pollack. The deck that taught me to notice the magic in the mundane. Now, I have to tell you, I don't think that's a lesson that I need to learn necessarily. I kind of feel like I just sort of know that. It's like it's all about what's happening just in daily life. But this particular deck, and maybe it's because it came into my life when I was studying some things, studying my craft, developing my little witchy practice a little bit, that this kind of filled that need, noticing the magic in the mundane, because I've always used herbs, things from nature, whether it was making nature tables for my child when she was young, cooking, self-care, skincare, everything. I've always used it, but somehow, sometimes I just use it and I wasn't being, what do I want to say? I wasn't being really magical about it. And so this particular deck encourages me not just to like pick a flower and spend some time looking at it or whatever, but to really stop and be grounded and get that extra spiritual connection going, which is the essence of magic for me. It is spirit, the universe, God, whatever you want to say. So yes, and I mean, the idea of the mushroom being the tower is just too fabulous. So that's the Herb Crafters Tarot. I know a lot of people with that deck. The deck that encourages me to embrace levity. Well, I have a lot of decks that encourage me to embrace levity. But just to pick one, I chose the Kauai Tarot, which has kind of a nice, good, happy association for me because it was gifted to me. Some friends were visiting. We were hanging out in New York City, and they wanted me to read tarot for them. And I didn't have a deck. I was, schlepping around the city. And so they just stopped and bought me a deck. Because they wanted me to read for them. So it has a very happy association. Wait, let's do it this way. But the question was encouraging me to embrace levity. I mean, come on. Nobody wants to get the Three of Swords. Who wants to get the Three of Swords? Nobody. Nobody wants to get that. But look at the cat. Look at the clouds. I mean, I feel like I've walked through these cards recently. Let's go further into the deck. I mean, it's just so fun. It's super fun. The drama of the llama. What message is that little pink llama bringing us? This feels kind of seasonal. I'm doing this in November. Look, doesn't that put a smile on your face? I'm a little worried about you if this doesn't put a smile on your face, even in the middle of all the craziness that's going on in our world. Because we do need to smile. I mean, it's the Five of Swords, right? But you kind of gotta take a little giggle at our victorious mouse. And then look, it's a rainbow cake inside. Lighten up. Yep. Oh. Okay, put that to the side before some cuteness aggression comes. The deck that shifted my practice. Okay, so I had reached a point, let's see, what year am I going to put this in? 2018? 2019? some point I had reached a point where I was just like, oh my gosh, tarot's so white, tarot's so patriarchy. What? No, I want something different. I want something that represents the world that I actually live in, which is multicultural, which doesn't conform to gender stereotypes and norms. I want something better, more me. And then I found that this might hurt tarot. I guess we could look at the copyright. Whoops, nope, no nakedness. Don't want to get taken off the air here. Okay, there is, warning, there is some nudity in this deck. So then if this deck came into my life, and I said, it's a little easier to breathe with this one. And it did. It started to shift my practice, because instead of looking at a very conventional RWS deck and saying, okay, well, whoops, we can't, yes, it's a man doing this leader thing, but we all know that women do leader things. And yeah, everybody in here is white, but, I have friends that aren't white. I don't have to say all those kinds of things to myself. I'm not constantly having to, I don't know, explain why this super white RWS deck is okay. I can just use a deck and say, oh yes, I get this. I understand this. This makes sense to me. Yeah. So I hope I didn't go too far with that, but that's why. Okay, and then the last one is the deck that jump-started a creative project. Well, I always have creative projects going, so jumpstart, I need to narrow them down. It's more like, so this is in a little tea box, and this is Nellie's deck. So Kelly at Truth and Story, I do not know what her last name is, but Kelly at Truth and Story created this little deck, and I just, whoops, let's go this way. I just love it, because what she's done is she's combined some Lenormand things, some tarot things, playing card things, and she did it all with this story. Obviously, I use reversals with this deck. She created this story about Nellie, who lived in a lighthouse and made this deck for herself, and now we can use it. So in that sense, it's kind of similar to some of the Deviant Moon things, like what's the Oracle? Mildred Payne. But Mildred Payne doesn't inspire me to want to do something. Mildred Payne is like, but this one does. This inspires me to work on my own deck, something that really means something to me, because I liked the story behind it, of somebody creating their own deck, and then there is the deck, and so, wow, it's just beautiful. So if you're interested, this obviously an indie deck, I think, did I get it off Make Playing Cards? I think that's the deal, but you can go to Truth and Story, you can go to her website and find out how to get it if you like it, and then you get a little PDF that explains everything, tells the story, and it's just wonderful. Love this deck. Love it, love it, love it. And it does jumpstart a creative project for me. So that's it. That's what we've got. So I hope you find something to be grateful for. Love who you are. And thanks for watching. And, go watch the creator's original video, which, like I said, should be linked over here. You could subscribe. You can hit the like, all those good things. You know the rap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.